In this lesson, you'll learn how to create a soft, dreamy look, and we'll be working on this Panasonic vlog clip. It's just a nice short clip of a model. And these are my project settings, and my input color space and the timeline color space are set to Panasonic V-Gamut Vlog, as this is how the clip was shot. And here, traditionally, we'll start from the primary correction, so I will label my first node accordingly. And you can obviously use your curves, but I will move to the primary wheels, as this is my favorite tool in Resolve. And looking at my waveform, I will start from decreasing the lift and gain. Then I will also decrease the gamma. And then I will tweak my contrast and the pivot. And this is before and after. Looks nice and contrasty and also well balanced, so I don't have to perform any additional primary adjustments here. And now we can move to the secondary adjustments, and I usually like to perform my secondary adjustments using the parallel nodes. So I will hit Option S first to add another serial node, and then Option P to create a parallel mixer node. And on my first node, I will be adjusting that pink hue, as this is a dominant color here, so we can play around with it a bit more. So let's just label the node as pink. And first, let's go to my curves. And let's use the hue versus hue curve. So I will select the pink hue on my clip. And then I can move this point up and down to shift the hue more towards pink or towards red. I will make it a little bit more pink just for fun. And this is before and after. And then we can move to hue versus saturation curve. And here we can select the same hue again, and we can move the point up and down to make it more or less saturated. And I will go for a more saturated look. And this is before and after. But here obviously there's no right or wrong, it's all about the personal taste. Now I think I want to adjust the luminance of the shirt. I don't like how bright it is, and I don't want the white to stand out in this shot that much. So let's label our node as shirt. And first I will go to my power windows, and I will grab a round power window, and I will place it over the shirt like this, and then let's drag it. And now let's turn the highlight mode on to be able to see what we are doing. Okay, let's also go to the qualifier, and let's move our luminance slider up like this, just to select the brightest parts. And now I will increase the blur radius, and then I will denoise my selection, and then I will increase the softness over here, and I will tweak the selection more with the slider. Okay, and let's have a look. Nice, this selection is quite accurate and should work nicely. And now I will go to my primaries again, and I will decrease the gamma just a touch, not too much, like this. And this is before and after. I like it. Now the shirt doesn't draw as much attention as before. And now we can move to creating our dreamy film look. And I will use one of the favorite colorists' tools that has got a lot of potential. And I am talking about the glow effect. So I will create a new serial node at the very end, and I will just call it glow. And now let's just grab it from the effects tab over here. And here we have quite a few controls to play around with. So I will leave my output as glowing image. And then the first important control over here is the shine threshold. So when we move the slider to the left, we increase the shine threshold. And when we move it to the right, we decrease it. So I'll leave it somewhere here for now. I never add too much of it. I like subtle changes. Then we have shape and spread. So here we can decrease or increase the spread. That's, I think, quite self-explanatory. So to get a dreamy look, we can decrease it quite a lot actually. Like this. And then we can go back to shine threshold and we can also decrease it, moving the slider to the right. Okay. Then you have the whole bunch of other controls I want you to play around with. So please do it in your own time to familiarize yourself with them. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And I will only just decrease the opacity of my effect over here, like this, to make it even more subtle. And this is before adding the glow effect and after. And now, because the glow effect comes from the brightest parts of the clip, my shirt again looks way too bright. So I will go back to my note where I was adjusting the shirt and I will decrease the gamma more, like this. And now the clip looks very nice. And I also want to show you one more effect we can add to it to enhance our dreamlike look. And this effect is called radial blur. So let's create a new serial note at the end and let's label it. And then let's search for the radial blur in the effects. And let's drop it onto our note. And this is how the effect looks as a default. It basically creates that kind of a radial blur here. But we can obviously modify it a bit. So here we can change the position of the blur, but we can also do it manually. So I can move my point to the left corner of the clip or to the right corner. So I can decide from where I want my effect to start. But let's leave it in the middle. Then we can, for example, change the blur type from realistic to stylized, so it will look more prominent. But let's go back to realistic. Then we can change the blur symmetry from symmetric to clockwise or anti-clockwise. And then we can change the smooth strength over here. So this way we can animate our effect. So for example, let's go to the first frame and let's create a keyframe next to the smooth strength. Then let's move the cursor to the very last frame and let's increase the smooth strength to the max. And let's play the clip. We got something like this, but again, I will leave it to you to play around with. So let's reset it. And I would just increase the smooth strength a little bit. And I would change the blur symmetry to symmetric. And then I can, for example, go to my power windows and I can grab the round power window. Then I will reverse it over here. So the blur effect affects only the outside part of the clip. And I will place it over the model. Then I will soften it. And this is before and after. And I hope you like this lesson. In this lesson, we will talk about skin tones and we'll be working with this Ari Alexa clip that was shot in Loxy Free. And these are my color management settings. So as this is an Ari clip, the input and the timeline color space is set to Ari Loxy Free and my output color space is set to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. And here, I've only improved the overall balance and the exposure. This is before and after. And let's go ahead and let's create another serial node. And let's call it skin tones. And we will be analyzing and adjusting our skin tones today using the vector scope. This is the best tool for it as we can work here with the skin indicator. So let's customize our vector scope by clicking on the settings button over here. So first, let's select show skin indicator. Then I will also select show 2x zoom as this will enable me to see my trace better. And here you can also increase or decrease the overall visibility of your vector scope. so feel free to adjust it to your liking as well. Now I want to show you a trick that can help you to adjust skin tones correctly very quickly. So let's go to the power windows and let's grab the round power window from here. Then let's simply place it over the small part of the skin like this. And now when we turn the highlight mode on, we're able to see on the vector scope only that part of the skin. And we can clearly determine where the skin tones are placed in the relation to the skin indicator. Now let's go back to the primary wheels, as the vector scope corresponds to the color wheel. And as a general rule, the skin tones should lay on the skin line or a little bit above it. So when the skin tones are above the skin line, they are more red, and when they are on or a bit below the skin line, they have more yellow hue. Then also, the further the trace is from the center of the vector scope, the more saturated the skin is. And the closer the trace is to the center, the less saturated the skin is. Now, it all also depends on the race. So darker skin tones will be more towards red, and Asian skin tones will be more towards yellow, right? Our model is very Caucasian, so maybe now her skin tones are a tiny bit too red, so I would just move them with my gamma wheel, as this is where our skin tones lay. I will move them towards yellow just a bit. So now let's turn our highlight mode off. And here let's also remove the power window. And this is the skin before and after. Now, this was a general rule, but I also want to show you a few different factors that can affect the skin tones. So first, have a look at this still where we have a man who has a dark skin tone. So when we check the sample of his skin, we can see that his skin tone lays above the skin line, as darker skin tones have more red hues. Then another still shows the Asian woman, and her skin lays below the skin line, as it does have more yellow hues. But then this still shows a case where everything you've learned in this lesson will not really apply, as here we are dealing with some colorful artificial lighting. So when we check the skin tone here, it's totally out of place, but it's okay, as it should match the creative intent. And I want to show you another example where all these rules will not apply, as I have created a very cold look for this clip before, and it's my gallery. So I'll go to my gallery and I will right click on this still and I will select apply grade. And this is also one cool thing about DaVinci Resolve, that every time you grab a still from your viewer, you can save it in the gallery and it always contains a grade. So then you can simply steal this grade from the still. But anyway, now my grade is pretty much on the blue and cyan side, as this is the look I was aiming for, right? And let's check the skin tones again here. So I'll grab the power window and let's create another serial node. And I will turn the highlight mode on. Okay. So you see, now my skin tones are placed towards blue and magenta, and it's fine, as this is my creative look and the skin tones should travel with it. So this is something to remember. And to summarize, I would highly recommend you to practice adjusting skin tones with the vector scope, but also let's not forget that color grading depends on many different factors and the rules are made to be broken.